Never before have conspiracy analysts been so close to exposing the reality of the New World Order to the normies. It creates a pathway to other opportunities, including reopening conspiracy events that were buried by the establishment a long time ago. One such conspiracy of evil from the past stands out to me as directly related to the Epstein case, and I think it should be re-examined in light of the release of the Epstein files. The Franklin child prostitution case. In Omaha, Nebraska in the 1980s, a child sex abuse scandal was uncovered which involved high-profile politicians and business moguls. The central figure, Lawrence King Jr., was a GOP favorite and the manager of the Franklin Federal Credit Union, an institution which would eventually be caught up in an embezzlement investigation. He was accused of hosting lavish parties where minors were sexually abused and ritual occultism was practiced. Victims, often from foster care or a regional boys' town orphanage, alleged they were tricked into recruitment, then flown to locations like Washington, D.C. for exploitation by high-ranking individuals, including politicians, businessmen, and law enforcement. Key accusers included Alicia Owen, Paul Bonacci, and Troy Boner. They claimed the existence of an elitist network engaged in ritualistic practices, drug use, and coercion. The accusers faced extreme pressure to recant. Alicia Owen was imprisoned for perjury by a grand jury. She never recanted her story. Troy Boner recanted due to threats of legal ramifications, then returned to assert that everything he originally said was true after the untimely death of investigator Gary Candori. Boner died mysteriously at the age of 36 in Texas in 2003 with no public information on the cause. Paul Bonacci would go on to win a civil case against Lawrence King and received a $1 million default judgment for child abuse. King failed to defend the case, and the judge found Bonacci's claims to be credible. Gary Cardori, a private investigator hired in August 1989 by the Nebraska legislature's Special Franklin Committee to look into evidence of child exploitation, conducted extensive interviews. He gathered over 21 hours of videotaped testimony from alleged victims like Alicia Owen, Paul Bonacci, and others. He uncovered what he described as breakthrough evidence, including photographs and leads implicating prominent individuals. In 1990, Candori died along with his 8-year-old son while flying his single-engine plane over Illinois. The plane reportedly disintegrated in midair, and the wreckage was found strewn across a field near Ashton in Lee County. The FAA ultimately ruled that the incident was accidental. The Buried Documentary. In 1993, a 60-minute documentary called Conspiracy of Silence was produced by a UK company called Yorkshire Television for the Discovery Channel. The production focused on the investigations of John DeCamp, a U.S. Army captain, lawyer, and former aide to CIA Director William Colby, who also mysteriously died by drowning in the Wicomico River near his home in 1996. DeCamp was a Republican legislator in Nebraska at the time the Franklin case broke. He asserted that the claims of abuse were true and that the politicians involved had ties to the Iran/Contra drug running scandal. He also named 5 prominent local officials and businessmen, including Harold Anderson, publisher of the Omaha World-Herald newspaper, frequently cited as central to the alleged cover-up. DeCamp accused the paper of bias and suppression. Alan Baer, a wealthy Omaha businessman, indicted on pandering charges in 1990 related to the scandal, though not directly for child abuse. He pleaded to lesser charges. Robert Wadman, former Omaha police chief, accused in victim testimonies of involvement. He denied it and sued over the claims. Peter Citron, a former World Herald columnist, convicted in 1990 on separate child sexual assault charges, linked in allegations to the network. Lawrence E. Larry King Jr., the Franklin Credit Union manager, central figure, convicted on financial embezzlement but never on abuse charges. These figures were named for alleged involvement in procuring child victims for political elites in Washington, D.C., or for covering up the crimes. The Discovery documentary focused on this thread as well as interviews with the victims, then outlined the government and media suppression campaign that was used to threaten them. It was set to air in May of 1994, but it was abruptly pulled weeks before broadcast, apparently due to pressure from political officials in the U.S. All master copies were ordered destroyed. The only reason we know about its existence is because some anonymous hero released a rough edit to a lawyer involved in the case. The suppression of this documentary is clear evidence of a conspiracy. At the time, the majority of accusations surrounding the Franklin case were dismissed by the media as satanic panic. This is a narrative that has also been used to dismiss the darker crimes behind the Epstein case and others. It is time to crush this lie and expose these people for what they truly are. Furthermore, it's time to acknowledge the fact that ritual child abuse has been happening in the shadows, in dark and grotesque places, for many decades and long before Epstein. His island is only one of many elitist retreats where such evils are practiced. Epstein was merely a middleman in a much larger network of pedophiles and Luciferians that have operated with impunity for generations.